Hello, everyone. I am excited about today's interview. Whether you're catching this live or you're going to catch the replay, today I am interviewing pastor and prophet and my husband's best friend, Pastor Bruce Robinson. What's
Let's go. Let's
up? What's
go.
up?
Let's
What's
go.
up? And the
What up,
reason
y'all niggas swear?
this is also your world. I feel like City of Hope is gonna be on here like that
I'm
my
sure.
pastor, throwing
I'm
up
sure.
gang signs, all that
Cause they
stuff.
do that. Cause they
Because
do that. They do
they,
that.
they throw up the Christian gang signs, y'all. And the reason I'm bringing him on is because many of you guys are in a building phase, and it's one thing to build, and it's another thing to survive the building process. And who else could better help with this
Mm,
other than a pastor, someone who's going through the building process? But also, there's a unique challenge with ministries and nonprofits trying to build an organization that meets the spiritual, social, immediate needs. Like some people need their rent paid and their car about to get taken away, and they need groceries
yeah.
and their relational needs while still navigating
Building.
their own growing pains. Their
Yeah.
own growing pains, meaning they're still trying to figure out how to make everything work. And so I hope, and if you don't know me, my name is Yannick, and I help people just grow from the inside out and navigate their problems from the inside out. And hopefully, after watching any of my content, you will feel more confident about stepping into your assignment, chasing after your dreams, and hopefully you'll feel like I can do it, and then you'll get some of the tools on how to do so. So thank you so much, Bruce, for coming on. And if you didn't catch it, Bruce is the lead pastor of City of Hope, Columbia. And it's a great church. I've been there. And I'm like, you know what? If I lived in Columbia, I might have to make some more trips down here.
I think
I'm
you
gonna have
should.
to make some more trips down
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
So here's a couple quick facts about Bruce. Now, the first thing he said was that he loves Subway.
Gotta have it.
Why
I
do you have
I
to have Subway?
because every time I've gone to Subway, there's very rarely, if ever, a line. I don't have to wait.
Oh, so it has nothing to do with food quality. You just ready to eat.
Full quality.
Well,
Well,
we're not gonna.
I
You
like
know what?
I like Subway. Some people like that is not real deli meat. Pause. But hey, it's real good. Okay.
Well, all right. And then also, if you didn't know this, Bruce is a very great guitar player, and he's one of my favorite guitarists.
Wow.
And he has some nice guitar licks and some nice little areas that he
Razzle
gets
dazzle.
into, you know. And Bruce, before becoming a pastor, has played for Fantasia. Now, were you on the "If You Don't Want Me, Then Don't Talk to Me"? Because that's my song.
No, I actually did all of her live stuff. The studio stuff was left up to her guys, and it's two different sets and units. But I definitely did the touring and stuff for about 10, 12 years now.
Okay, but did you tour and play guitar on "If You Don't Want Me, Then Don't Talk to Me"?
Yes, we did every night.
That's my song. That's my song. Tank, Neo, Carrie Hilson, 112, The Dream, Ronald the Isley.
Ronald the Isley. I actually did a song on his previous record, but hey, to God be the glory.
Byron Cage, Tamla Man, everyone. So you are, I mean, how you just got all the talents and gifts all in one. Pastor, prophet, guitarist, everything else. So first, before becoming a pastor, what were you doing before ministry? Obviously, you were playing guitar. What else were you doing?
That's it. That's it. I spent some time like inside a funeral home, but outside of that, I mean, music took me out of a normal life into an unnormal life. So that's kind of where I've been kind of sitting.
Hold on. So
Um,
wait, you went from a normal life to music to another normal life and
right,
ministry. So
which
the normal walk is not for you, apparently.
no 9 to 5 for me. Can
Okay.
can I do it?
What made you make the switch? What gave you the unction of saying, you know what, I'm going to get into ministry? I am just going to go ahead and go from music.
Well, I was about 40,000 feet in the air, and I feel like God blackmailed me a little bit. He knows that I'm very, very much so afraid of heights. So, but for those that know me, if I'm on a flight, I have no less than three's equal limit. And in this particular flight, three's equal did absolutely nothing. So I'm just trying to figure out why I'm in the air with three's equal in my system and nothing's happening. So all right, cool. So I'm up. I'm scared, but I'm up. You know what I mean? So we start hearing air pockets, boom, and then I hear God say things like, "Are you gonna give me this?" Yes, and I'm like, "Nah."
Hold on, wait. You mean like you're literally on a plane?
Yeah, literally.
I thought you were on a proverbial plane. Okay, go
No,
ahead.
no, no. This is me in a Delta first class seat hitting air pockets. So after about three pockets, I was sitting there like, Lord, you can't drop this plane. Fantasia over there.
You sure can't, because the people.
The people, okay,
The people.
the people would be upset. So he kind of like smirked. He was like, I can make another one. And I was like, oh snap, that's crazy. You that kind of person. Like you on that kind of time, huh? So I was just like, Lord, I got all of these issues. I don't know what I'm doing. Like I got the speech impediment and you asking me to talk. And I'm just like, Lord, you doing too much, my God. You doing too much. Air pocket. Boom. Cool. Got it. All right. Yes. If you don't leave me, I'll do it. Then so the pilot gets on and was like, yeah, I don't really know what that's about. Apparently we had some air pockets that we did not see. Still don't really see them. But it's all good because we're 2 minutes from dissension in Memphis. So I'm like, if I would have held on 3 minutes, then I wouldn't have had to give up this yes, my boy.
So he just wanted to scare
Pretty
you and
much.
shake you a little bit,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
pretty much.
So
Yeah,
you made the decision. Okay, this is the question I have. So clearly, and I say this entire podcast, this entire YouTube channel is about getting people to step into their assignment, to chase after their goals, and to not just settle for mediocre. Meaning, at some point, you got the call, you got the dream before you got on the airplane. How
true.
long before you got on that airplane did you know for sure you were receiving a call from ministry and you knew you were supposed to be somewhere else? Because there's a lot of people that's been sitting at their same job for the past 10 years, and not saying you're
True.
supposed to not work, but maybe you're supposed to be somewhere else. How long from the time you knew in your spirit it was time to make the change to the time that airplane started shaking?
Well,
Or
well, I think for me, I didn't really know what was happening until I understood how God was choosing to communicate. Like I just thought God was upset with me, and I was going through no peace, but I had the money. I mean, like I had money. Like it was like I was in a very interesting. I don't know what you would call it. Like things were being disturbed. No, no, things were fine. Everything was good, but I was just disturbed. I was frustrated, agitated, mood swings galore, and I just wasn't getting no sleep. And I was just like, why am I not like, what's up? And I think that a lot of people don't understand that God does not just speak verbally by words. He mostly speaks by seasons and things. Like he'll place you in a season to speak to you a certain way. And he put me in a no peace season. So when he started talking to me, I was like, man, like we could have avoided all of this if you just would have asked me on the ground what you asked me 40,000 feet in the air. But if I be honest, I probably wouldn't have gave him the answer that I gave him on the ground if I was not 40,000 feet in the air. And then, like you just said something too that kind of like just like triggered me. Like you was like, you know, how do people step into their calling? And more times than not, most people don't step into it; they fall into it.
okay.
Like they have to be. Most people run so much until their legs run completely out of strength, and they literally have nothing left, so they fall into their yes. Which that's kind of how we showed up. Kind of just fell into that thing. You know what I mean?
Well, you know what they call that in therapy and every sort of narcotics anonymous and everything else. They call it hitting rock bottom.
Literally, literally.
And you almost hit rock bottom in a plane trying to crash Fantasia and everybody else
I was not
waiting for
trying to crash Tasia, you spirit.
y'all, y'all, because of Bruce,
It
because of
was
Bruce.
like Jonah. That is so funny.
But there's a bunch of other people on the well tubes being like, please just say yes. Please just
The
do what you're
people would
supposed
be
to do.
mad.
But let me tell you, but that's so true because for everything that we're called to do, there's so many people that are relying on us saying yes. They're relying on us stepping into our assignment, getting done what we're supposed to get done. So I love that. Okay. So you said yes. What was your first step? Because everything doesn't come together at once. Everything doesn't come together at once. Once you emotionally and spiritually said yes, what was the next step?
I didn't tell nobody.
So you know what? We're learning a lot today.
I didn't
I
tell
hope all of
nobody.
your congregants are listening right now. You didn't tell anyone.
Y'all don't play with me.
Okay.
So man. Okay, so I didn't tell anyone, and then my dad, one Sunday, my dad was just not feeling good. It's like my dad had this black thing on his leg. It was like it was just really black, and it was I don't know what that was. So
I know what it was.
so they went like we thought it was a blood clot or something like that. So like I was I was leaning over the bath. I'm just thinking about how ridiculous I was running. It's just really ridiculous. So I was just like, I don't want my daddy to die. Oh my God. Oh no, the blood clot. Jesus. So I think for me it was that moment. Like God was like, yo, if you don't do what I say do, you're gonna like everybody's gonna feel it, Jonah.
Yo,
So
okay. So we have to back this up because this is not how my God works all the time. That means that you didn't tell nobody for some time before you said yes, because if it's
probably
like we're gonna send leprosy out into the land, okay, that means you stand on your yes. Okay, so let's be honest with the people.
I think
Before
I put
you
my
took
dad in harm's way.
okay. Okay, y'all, this is not funny, but this happens in real life. There are literally people that are in harm's way. Some of y'all, there are people right now still trying to
Right.
get unemployment because you won't open up the business. Okay,
That
so
part.
this is the black thing on the daddy's leg. So how
Right.
long between you saying yes on the plane with Fantasia to falling into not so much falling into it seems like having to preach? How much time had passed?
Maybe a couple of years. Maybe a couple of years. And it wasn't solely for disobedience, it was ignorance. Don't be taking notes on what I'm saying.
Y'all, I promise you, I take notes with every person I interview.
Don't be time stamping me. But spirit of divination. Um yeah, it was like 2 years because okay, so I started kind of ministering. I was ministering, but I really wasn't taking ministry serious because at this time we took kind of like a hiatus from Tasia. So it was kind of like something to like a pastime, maybe.
Mhm.
It was like yeah, but not yes.
It was
Yeah,
like a for now until we go back on tour.
right. And tour never came back. So um,
We blaming you for that too. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm
I
joking.
I mean, people are big innocent bystander casualties. Okay, first it was Tasia, and then it was my daddy, and then it was the band. Like nobody ever got right. So my dad shared with me this dream he had that I was next, and I was like, all right, cool. This is this is my moment to really say yeah. So I went full throttle into it. Um, and that had its pros and cons, Like Like I wish I could do it over. And
Okay.
you know,
If you would have done it over, what would you have done differently?
I would have shut up a lot more. I would have taken time to really learn the art of what my calling was and not really being so fixated on one of my gifts and focus on my calling. Yeah.
Okay, that is very interesting. So it's almost as if you would have taken that 2 years instead of hiding, just educating yourself on what your next step was.
Game, set, match.
Okay, so that goes into the next question. I have learned, and after interviewing so many people and coaching so many people, the early days of everything always feel bleak. Like after the first couple of weeks, it's like, oh my gosh, we're doing this new thing. It's
Yeah.
amazing. It's fun. It's like, oh, I'm a pastor now, or I'm an entrepreneur now, or I have this organization. You get your LLC, you put the desk in the room, everything's great. You have the grand opening. And then
Right.
after that wears off, there comes the quiet storm. So, what were the
Yeah.
early days like for you? You take over. What were the early days like? And I'm going to say this. I'm going to preface it with this, just to help out, because your eyes told a lot. If you guys don't know this, actually 39.9% of churches in the United States, as of right now, have 50 members or less. And that number is actually closer to zero than what it is to 50. And that is a large percentage of the churches in America. Did you know that, Bruce?
I had no idea.
Yes,
I did.
39.9%. So was the early days
Dear my Lord.
closer to that percentage than anything?
It was kind of sitting in the middle.
Okay.
It was kind of sitting in the middle.
So what were the early days like?
As it pertains to what?
To ministry, your beginnings. You
Okay.
cut you get the, hey, I'm a pastor now. You're in the
Okay.
pulpit. You're
Okay.
here helping the community. You going live on YouTube or whatever, right? What were the early days like?
We had no YouTube yet. We had cell phones and the Holy Spirit, and we had cell phones. Okay, I'm serious. All right, here we go. So we had approximately about probably 25 members at this point. The biggest hurdle of the beginning was the transition of visions. How do I take what was given to me without making what was given to me feel insignificant? And that's just been one of the most difficult. That was two years worth of work in itself. I think people have to understand that there has to be transition into succession. And where there is no transition into succession, it will be a catastrophe because without clarity, there's no destiny.
Oh, I love
Um,
that.
so we get into, yeah, okay, anyway, back to your question. Um, you know, when I was given the church, it was still very my dad. It was still very my parents. A lot of them were pro me, pro them. They loved me, but they were pro them. And I guess that I hadn't produced enough wins as a leader, as a pastor. I was very, very precise as a prophet, but they didn't really trust me as a pastor. One of which, even with didn't even vote for me. Didn't even, I mean, not that that vote mattered. Uh, hope they heard that. Not that their vote mattered, but they called me a novice. And at the time, I didn't even know what a novice was. I was like, yeah, I am smart.
So wait.
Right.
So they were accurate, is what you're saying.
Well, no, they were. They
They
actually
were
were not.
accurate.
They were not accurate. Because again, for what was being handed to me, I really didn't ask for that.
Mm,
I was just asking for more preaching opportunities.
okay. Okay.
Uh,
So they appreciated your gift, but you hadn't yet won them over in the areas of leadership yet. They hadn't
Leadership,
had the
absolutely,
opportunity to do that.
absolutely.
Okay. Now, so you're in the beginning and you're having difficulty transitioning. You're still trying to win the favor of your team and your people.
Yeah,
Now, what about because this, like I said, this podcast is all about internal transformation.
yeah.
Where were some areas that the beginning stages highlighted where you needed to transform your mentality, spiritually, maturity, all of that? Why are you looking like that? Is that not a valid question?
Can I digress out of this the answer? Is this a good time to push leave on the bottom of the screen?
Well, no, don't leave
Okay, no,
because
I'm joking. I'm joking.
everyone's
No,
going to
no,
learn from this.
I'm with it.
Everyone's
I'm
going to
with
learn
it.
from this.
I'm with it. I'm with it. I'll say this. You cannot be a leader without aggressive leadership development. It's like it's impossible to be effective and impactful when nothing is making impact on you. So it's the things that I had to work on, my maturity level, my my knowledge of scripture, my attitude, my perspective. Is it possible to just say all of me? Really? I'm cool with that.
Can you
Um,
give us an example? And the reason this is important is I could just tell there's someone that's going to end up watching this or that's watching this now
sure.
that's in the middle of building a ministry, in the middle of building a nonprofit, and they're trying to figure out why is this not working? And examples are
Gotcha.
really helpful.
I did not know how to be a team player.
Okay.
I was the worst. I was the scorer on the team. So it's like, hey, give me the ball, I'm a score. It does not work like that in anything.
So you were very tired.
I mean, weary. Okay, weary. And then I didn't have the language of a leader. It was very. I'll even say it was a dictatorship to some degree. But because I felt as though I'm gonna show you, I'm gonna prove to you I can do this. And it's like you got to learn that leadership is not doing it yourself. It's empowering people to do it as good as you.
Got it. And you know what's funny is when you're building, sometimes and I've seen this in people I've worked with, other leaders, other people that I've interviewed. When you're building, you lose sight of what the spoils are. You lose sight of the
Man,
spoils. The spoils are the people in the community and all of these things. And one or two people can say something, question your leadership, and suddenly you have something to prove and
right.
you leave all the spoils on the table. Okay. So we know you had some issues with being a team player, which means you're probably not delegating. You're weary, you're tired. At what point did you have like that breaking point where you're like, something has to change? Because if you guys don't know this now, his ministry has at least over 250 people. And I guess we're just counting people who are officially members or tithing, and probably not
Sure.
everyone else that's watching online and pass through on a birthday and still get their kids baptized and
Right.
everything else, right?
Right. Right.
So we're going to say 250 regulars plus. So
Sure.
obviously there's been a huge change. And I don't know if you know this, but your church is in the top 9.9% of churches in America. The top 9.9% of churches in America have 250 members or more. And so
Jesus.
there's the top 9%, and then the top 2% are mega churches. So in just this amount of time, you've already
Wow.
made it to the top 9%. Do what you want with it.
Mm.
But that means you put in a lot of work. And
A lot
sometimes,
of
and
work.
I like to say these things sometimes so you can look back, and every leader needs to be able to look back and say, like, oh, there has been some progress being made, and
Yeah.
something has been done. So tell me about it. Like, what was that transformation? When did you say, okay, enough's enough? Because everyone has that. And then suddenly everything just shifts.
I think that when you really kind of just lean into the power of God and you just really allow God to lead, um, there's not, when you are the blueprint to something, there's not a lot of strategy for the blueprint because you're working out the blueprint.
Mm,
Um, and you say to God, if I have to be the first one to do this, grace me. It's just just grace me. Like, even if you don't give me the answer to the why, give me the grace to make it out.
Ooh.
And I did not come on here for all of those.
What, go ahead. Let them use you. Let them
Uh,
use you.
I didn't know that number. That I think that took me out a little bit. And I think for me, it's not about the outcome. Like, I knew God would grow the church. I'm just like, when you work so hard and you work so long, you really don't focus on metrics. You just focus on the man.
Mm.
And I think, you know, if I would accredit anything to the success outside of the Spirit of God, it would be having a circle of people around you that you trust to chisel you.
Mm. Please go into
And
detail about that. Please. Let's
you,
just.
you're, you know, I have a couple friends, literally only a couple. Your husband being one of which, who, you know, it takes it takes hard conversations, takes tough talks, and like, you got to have people in your life that love you enough to beat you up, to beat you to better, you know? Because again, it's not about you. When you are a shepherd, it's not about like, it's about you putting yourself on the line. Like, put yourself on the line so that the sheep can survive,
Ooh, that's
you know?
leadership.
Yeah, and you know, you know, P has been a great asset to me. But you know, because as a leader with a point to prove, you don't trust anybody.
Mm.
So when God does put a person in your heart space, He gives them full authority, and Pierre Medor takes no. He feels graceless sometimes. So again, when you have people in your life that you trust, let them beat you to better. You know, just take it, because the sheep will win. You know,
Amen.
you know.
And I want
Anyway,
to put some extra emphasis on that. And it's because now we are living in a society where no one wants to be told they're wrong. Everyone wants to be accepted for whatever non levels of excellence that they bring to the table. But really, it's the people who are giving you that tough love that are going to take you to the next moment.
sure.
Um, so this is another thing that I want to talk about, especially for people who are building ministries and nonprofits. This is okay. I feel like I'm asking you a lot of tough questions,
I'm with
but
it. Let's
that's
go.
okay. You with it?
I'm with it.
Okay.
Let's go.
And but I know this is going to really bless some people and really help, because when you're building a company, you have the needs of three. You have the needs of your team,
Right.
and you have to be the emotional, even though you don't think so, like, oh, this is the place of work or business or whatever, right? But you still have to manage the emotional needs and the
Yeah.
relational and social needs of your team, but also managing the needs of your community, because anyone who's in ministry or a nonprofit, they're in it because there is a community or people in need who are hurting, who need guidance, who need shepherding. And that takes on an emotional toll, but also still going through the growing pains of growing a ministry, growing a nonprofit, growing a business. So what advice would you give to people, or what did you do to try to manage the three? Because that's a lot of pressure coming down at once. And I've learned we've lost a lot of amazing leaders from just that aspect alone of managing the anxiety and the pressure of all three of those things. So what advice would you give?
Well, first thing is that um, keep vision first. Vision keeps everything in order. Your mission should come from your vision. Your vision is your what, your mission is how. So whenever you are planning any kind of event, church service, outreach event, feeding, it has to connect to what the vision, because if it does not connect to vision, then you're just being like what the Apostle Paul calls a busybody, doing something, but not doing what you're supposed to do. So I would keep vision first, and I would keep accountability high. Um, I run our ministry off three eyes: impact, influence, and income. And if those things are not being touched, then we're not doing it.
Okay, so you said a couple of things that I love that I'm going to get back to. So
Sure.
you said impact, influence, and income. But another thing that you said that I want to start with first is accountability. Now, this is something that I've noticed, especially when you have a great leader and also a moral and ethical leader. And I've noticed the more moral and the more ethical the leader, the better person they are, the less people want to be or feel like they should be held accountable. Like everyone should just be like
Oh yeah.
hugs and smiles all the time, or like, oh, this is my pastor. You're not being pastorly, or this is a nonprofit. What do you mean? It shouldn't feel like this. Everything should be smiles and, all of that, right?
Yeah.
So, how do you hold people accountable in this space?
Well, I'll be honest and say that we are having some meetings upcoming because I have not, when you are in the wooing phase of vision, trying to persuade people and when people's buy-in, it kind of conflicts with accountability because you don't want to check them on their slackness. Because if you check them on their slackness, they they either fight or flight, both of which will end bad for them, considering with me. So what I've had to learn was I've had to learn how to invite people to healthy resolution. Um, I've had to learn how to ask questions that put people in the middle of their answer, so they have to be honest about what they are or what they are not doing. Um, the biggest thing is this: people are as slack as they are because there's no consequence for slackness in church. And not only is that day dead for the city of Hope, Columbia, the devil is a liar, and his mama don't have any edges. Um, because at the end of the day,
Hold on, wait. Did you say the devil is a lie and his mama don't have any edges?
still looking for him. Because at the end of the day, they are accountable to leadership, and I'm accountable to the Lord. So when I run back to God, like, hey, we didn't do this event because we didn't have enough volunteers. He like, sounds like a personal problem. Like, so now they sleep and I'm up because there was no follow up for the sake of accountability. So yeah, I hope that answered that question.
It did. And this is something that I'd like for you to address. And I'd like to address something that I've seen, just whether it's in the coaching space or just
Sure.
observational, is when you go into a corporation where their goal is profiting, right? You see a very, very large level of excellence. Like our goal here is to make money, our goal is to profit. And oftentimes it's at the expense of maybe some ethical issues, or at the expense of the community, at the expense of people, or what have you. But when we go into the nonprofit space and into ministry, I often see that although the spoils of that is to help people and they're very important, the level of excellence goes down.
Woo,
And we wonder
woo,
why we're not experiencing,
woo.
the same results as people in the for-profit space. And so why do you think that within those spaces the level of excellence goes down, although the benefits to the community, the benefits to people are actually greater? Because whether or not you buy a pair of jeans that had a certain emblem or not isn't going to change your life in 30 years, but maybe being involved in this ministry will, maybe being involved with this nonprofit helping to find a cure to said disease will. So why do you see that? Or why do you experience that? How do you battle that?
Well, I see that you get straight to it tonight. Well, first of all, I think the first
And
challenge
I know you're
is,
in process with that too. Like,
yeah,
how are you
I think
navigating that?
I think being honest, being 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 brutally honest. I have not really been brutally honest with our church, but in this upcoming meeting, I think it's time to have that conversation. The biggest thing is people separate church and business like it's not the same word. the moment that you flick on the light and the light turns on and it starts to create a bill, it's a business. And uh, people are more bought into their jobs that doesn't pay them enough than their church that feeds them to go to be able to endure this job that does not pay them enough. I think perspective is always the people's poison.
So you said something, because now this is the thing, because everyone has this mindset, especially dealing with nonprofits or ministries or what have you. It's like, oh, well, they're in it for the money, or you're not supposed to say that it's a business. But one of the things that I've seen is that although we assume that, hey, this shouldn't, we shouldn't have to deal with this. This isn't something that we should talk about, the same way that businesses are dealing with inflation, every ministry, every nonprofit is dealing with inflation. And then when we go into these arenas, we expect to see the same level of excellence that we would see, and to have the same experience that we would see with a business. We're not going to say, hey, this is, we should be in this hut and be happy with it. No, you want Macy, you want all of these things.
Because you're not coming to a hut.
Right.
So don't do that.
Don't do that. You're not showing up.
You're not coming to a hut.
Unless it's Pizza Hut.
Or China Hut.
China Hut. Or something like that. So how do you navigate that, especially with congregants, especially with people coming in, talking about money, fundraising, all of those things. But when that mindset is, this is supposed to be about helping people, not making money. How do you navigate that conversation? And what advice would you give to someone who's building something, whether in ministry or the nonprofit arena, of how to have this conversation?
Well, I think that's an amazing question. I think that you have to have the skill of vision casting. Nobody's just gonna give out of their bosom into a thing that has no vision. Like, what are you doing with my monies? Like, and so I think when I do giving campaigns, this is what your money is doing, and I keep them fully aware of what's happening with their money. And the people have to trust the leader. And I think I've learned, if you just keep the people updated on what's happening or what phase of the process is in, they don't have a problem with giving if they have it to give. If on the other side of that, the truth is they're either going to give it or they're not.
And what I'm hearing from that is 4 things. You have to have a vision. You have to have transparency. The people have to trust you, and really you have to have follow through. And one thing I can say is, and one of the reasons why I brought you onto this is because I've been watching your journey, and you have a follow through. Everything that you said so far that you're going to build, you guys have built. And that's where you go into the trust factor. All right. So I'm not going to keep you forever, but I do have a few. Okay. I do have a few more questions. What has been your most challenging moment? And the reason I ask this question is there's always the time when you're building where it's like, things are great, these are great. And then you hit this wall like, ooh, are we going to close? Or maybe it was just me. I remember having my first company and it felt like we were building. Then we got to this point where we lost momentum. And I'm like, how much money is in this business account? So it may not be financial, but what was like your most challenging moment or like a scary moment that you were able to push through?
I think when we bought our property, we went from, I think, 2,000 square feet to now 30,000 square feet facility. And I think the thing that hit me in my face the biggest was renovation. Closing day was crazy too.
I was about to say, your wife said closing day.
Yeah, renovation was crazy. We over $500,000 for a building. So we like, all right, cool. We're going to go in and start having church in Jesus' name. Walk into this whole facility like, man, it's pretty warm in here.
Did y'all do a Jericho walk around the building?
When I tell you we did, I mean, spoken tongues and all, and was like, oh, snap. There's no air in here. What? Well, hold on, wait. What?
So wait. Wait, I know what it costs to get a new unit on a house, and that's
My
already
God,
gonna hit you down for a few thousand.
my
So,
God, my God. We have spent over $50,000 to kinda. And when I tell you kinda, I'm talking about kinda, kinda AC a portion of the building,
ooh,
not including the $30,000 bathrooms that we had to do a reno. Not even a new. We had to reno. Okay, we had to rejuvenate. It was a $30,000 revival to a bathroom. You understand what I'm saying? So, woo.
and just to give you guys context, they took over this church right before the pandemic in 2020. So this is all, and it's only 2023 right now. So you guys went from where you were to buying a building, and mind you, this is a nonprofit. Okay, this is a ministry. So they
Glory
went
to God.
from
From
nothing.
big praise to big bills.
So big praise to big bills. So, and then going into look, clearly closing day, and to jumping immediately from that to a 50, it sounds like $100,000 bill. So that was your scariest day, because you're like, all right.
Oh
I mean,
God.
what about it was scary? What about it was scary? You said, oh
Oh
God.
God. The looking back at the account saying, "Oh God,
What do they
help us."
say when you got more month than money?
Right. Um,
When
I
you're
I
in
think
between blessings? Were you in between?
we were in between offerings.
Okay.
Okay. But so let me tell you something I learned from my mom is I never really get down about money because I know how to go get it legally. You know what I mean? Like I feel like my gift and my talents are gonna always be in demand. That if I put a bid up, somebody's gonna buy it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like if I made one phone call right now and was like, "Hey, I want to do like tours again," it would be nothing for me to get on another tour. You know what I mean? So I feel like God gave me the gift that I need to pull in the quick revenue that I needed. You know what I'm trying to say?
Okay. I know exactly.
Um,
Was that a slight threat? Was that a slight threat to the
no threat,
church? If I
no
were
threat.
to make one phone call right now,
I'm out.
I could be
No,
back
no,
on
no,
tour.
no,
Y'all better get these. This,
no,
no, I'm
no.
just joking.
No, look, like I mean, what our church does well. I'm grateful for all of that.
So how
So
did you navigate that? How did you navigate that? You're like, okay, I
honestly,
know.
one Sunday at a time. Hey guys, we walked into we praised God for what we're in. We need to keep on praising and paying. Come on, glory to God. If you if and then I taught stewardship very well. I taught stewardship aggressively. When God gives you something more than what you think He can handle, He's showing you another facet of Him. So we're going to give and steward intentionally. You know what I mean? And I've learned, how to campaign. The biggest seed offering I'll ever take up at our church is $25. People can digest of, giving a meal then week after week. $100 line, come on up for your $100 blessing. $150 line, because folks like, man, I wasn't expecting to cash out on 150 today,
Right, but it's
but
using the power of numbers.
yeah, yeah. So our first big give was I gave them like maybe 5 or 6 months to prepare for the first Sunday. I can't really recall what month it was, but I asked every person to give $250. And I mean, they had like 5 or 6 months to get it in, and it went okay. Didn't go great. It went okay. Thank God for those that
Yeah,
did give, and
yeah.
for those that did not give, you still got time. Uh, First lady, if you could put the giving options on the
It
screen
was
in
just
case
it
somebody
was
forgot.
just
Glory to God.
so you just had some early voters, and then you still waiting for the people that are voting on voting day. Got it. Okay. And what I love that you said about that is just taking care of it piece by piece. And I
Yeah.
believe that that is how you grow any successful organization, is just day by day, piece by piece, until you get what you need to get done. Don't buckle under the pressure. All
Yeah.
right. So when did you really start feeling like, okay, I'm making an impact? I am making an impact on this community. I'm making an impact on these people because, and I'm going to say this, and this is not for you, Bruce, this is for everyone watching. We all have to do a better job of investing into the people and organizations that are investing back into us. You know, you can go see a Marvel movie, but Marvel isn't going to transform your community. They can get you hype, but who's going to be there when you get sick? Who's going to be there? Who's going to answer your phone call? Who's going to do all of those things? But when did you get that feeling like, you know, I've done all this work, I'm really making an impact? What made it, what has made it all worth it this far?
I feel like that's two different questions. Because I want to answer them both, I'm going to
Okay,
answer
answer
the
them
first one.
both. Go ahead.
Th- don't forget the second question.
Okay, I'm not.
All right. The first question was, when did I know I was making impact? The answer is when my peers got petty. When my friends made me their foe and I wasn't even trying to fight.
You know what song just went in my head?
Which one?
If you ain't got no haters, you ain't popping. I know you ain't got no haters, you ain't
I don't
popping.
know that song. I'm saved for
Yeah.
real, but yeah, that's a great message. That's a great message. Yeah. Father, I pray now for y'all need soul salvation. Amen. Uh, yeah, like I was like, it got really strange because I was like, man, why y'all falling back? And they were not falling back. I was just leveling up.
Mm,
And the lessons that I was trying to share, they didn't really respect the mouth that the wisdom was coming from because they failed to realize that I'm an anomaly,
mm.
you know. And yeah, it got strange. It got very strange,
He said
you
he
know.
built different. Okay, and when did you start to feel like you were impacting the community? When did you know, like, look, I've opened up this ministry. I'm seeing some spoils in the community. We're making some changes.
When we would, when all of the community influencers started pulling up to eat at the table, and I mean from every facet of life, from man, every facet of life, from Fortune 500s to some of the coldest, cold-hearted gang members in the world in the city would just be was sitting in there, and they made it their every week place of God. Maybe it was the only God that they got that week, but they show up every week to get their Jesus fix. And that's when I knew, oh, it's getting real. It wasn't a number amount. It wasn't at 150 members. It wasn't at $10,000 a week for offering. It was none of that. It was none of that. It was when the sheep started transforming into super sheep. When they
Okay.
started really, making a difference. You know what I mean, in the world. That's when I knew this was real.
So when you're saying when you're the people coming to your church were starting to impact the community.
Yeah,
Okay, I love that. Exponential growth.
yeah.
Now, I didn't send this to you, so this is a different question. I'm sorry, but it's something that popped up in my head. It's something that popped up in my head, but it's really important. One of the things that I've noticed and that I've taught is that people grow whenever they become whole. And we talk about, hey, you got some great habits, you got some great processes, you've gotten some great everything, right? But when they really take off is when they get closer and closer and closer to wholeness. And so this is advice for anyone that's listening or they're going to be a part of the playback. What are some of, or just name one of the main spiritual battles that someone's going to have to fight within themselves whenever they're growing and they're stepping into their calling, they're stepping out on faith, they're growing their ministry, their nonprofit, their business, whatever that next step is for them? What is the main battle they're going to have to fight?
Can I? And it's like the answer is you can't. He will.
Amen.
Lord, I almost shouted myself on your podcast. Um, whew,
Go
I,
ahead and do it. Go ahead and do it.
no,
Can't I? Okay, so you can't, he will. I love it.
um, yeah, because once you realize your calling is God's invitation to your participation.
We
Like,
can turn this whole podcast off right there. We can turn this whole live
yeah,
off. Okay?
yeah,
Say that
yeah.
again one more time for the people in the back.
For those that know me, know I forgot what I just said. Your calling is your invitation. Your I don't know what I just
Your
said.
calling is
Is
God's
your
invitation to your participation. Was that it?
sure or God? Your calling is your participation to God's invitation.
There you go. I love that.
Thank you.
So he's just asking you, look, will you at least
Show
pull
up.
up?
Just
Just
show up.
pull up.
Show
Just
up.
pull up. That's all I need you to do is just to pull up. All right. And last but not least, all right, this is all about teaching people how to grow from the inside out and learning how to grow spiritually so that way they can make an impact outwardly. So, through this process, how has this entire process transformed you spiritually? What has gotten bigger? What has gotten better? What has grown? If you can name, I know, but if you can
Mm.
name just one thing, like looking back, day one to now, what has been the biggest transformation that you've seen within yourself? Why is that a bad question? Wow. Is that a terrible
No,
question? Can y'all
no, it's
comment? Is that a bad
it's.
question?
I think it's a loaded question. It's such a loaded question.
Because as much as our assignments are for us, a lot of times God will use our assignments or for other people. God will use it to change us and to help us become who we need to be. So,
Can you ask the question one more time?
yes. So with everything that you've done, Pastor, prophet, guitarist Bruce Robinson, day one versus day now, what has been your biggest transformation through this process? How has this process impacted you, growing this church, everything? How has this changed you as a person? How has this transformed your inner man? One way, if you could just name one or two things,
I think okay, two. Okay,
just
I
say
gotta
one.
at least do two. Like
Okay,
I
okay.
gotta do two. Okay, my first thing has been it has increased my personal devotion time. Because like I'm running on fumes right now, fumes, because vision will keep you up at night, and vision requires all of you. Like it's no compromise. Vision is relentless, it is selfish, and it is non-negotiable. In order for God to use all power, He needs all of you. No conversation, and He's not moving until every little bit of you is sacrificed. The word of the Lord says, the written word says, present your body as a living sacrifice,
Sacrifice.
holy and acceptable. He didn't say your arm or the part you want to offer. I'm not moving until your whole body is here. He that dwelleth. Okay, anyway, conversation on that. So that's one thing. My personal devotion time. It gives me the strength and it gives me the God gift to prioritize my time.
Mm.
Um, I'm still learning. I'm still learning how to shut off, when to cut off. Um, I'm still working through pace and balance. Because so I think number one is my personal devotion time, which has to do with my pace and balance, and number two, I'm a better leader today.
Mm. I love it. I love it. Ooh, and the bigger your dream, the bigger your faith needs to be in your connection with God. I was listening to one of my mentors the other day, and if you're watching this and you're building something, stay strong. And he said, without Goliath, David would have just still been a little stable boy.
Facts.
And I was
Facts.
like,
Facts.
without an enemy, without a Goliath, David would have just been a stable boy, right? How terrible would that have been to give up becoming a king because you're afraid of a fight, because you're
Well,
afraid of a fight?
I think that when you're building, like because there's a very distinct difference in between building business and building kingdom, but in certain places they join. For example, when we talk about David and Goliath, David had to defeat a Goliath to take his seat, right? So the text says that when he killed him, he said he took his knife and he cut his head off. But in order to get the head off, he had to stand on top of him. So, exegetically speaking, what that means is the height of your giant is the height of your platform.
Woo!
So, again, you can't kill JoJo and Junebug kills Goliath and you think it's the same. No, 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 no. No, it's not. It's not the same. You killed JoJo, not Goliath. But again, the bigger challenge is when you water down your JoJo, then you turn into a Saul. Saul. Well, like I don't want to get into this next series that I'm doing called Trigger Happy, but it's almost like Saul in the same song. It said Saul has slain his thousands, David his tens of thousands.
Thousands.
So Saul is angry, but bro, you're in the song,
You in the song.
bro. You're
You in
the
the
first.
VIP.
You're the stand the introducer. So again, when you are not secure in your identity, you'll try to kill your successor.
Lord. That's
So
what? That's
I just got to say this too because so many people are trying to be content creators and they're only birthing kingdom destroyers because your mission, your vision, your mind, your heart, and your hand is toxic and insecure. So what you do is you become self-accredited without a Goliath, which is tinkling brass and noisy cymbals with no wins. So you have impact and you have influence, but you have no income, and the influence you have is because people know not to deal with you.
they
It's
got the
not
warning sign.
yeah, it's not I think I should stop because everybody got a page and a ministry, a loud voice and no Goliath is imbalance.
What are
Like
you taking down? What are you
you
taking down?
you or like Jesus went to the fig tree and he saw that the fig tree was not producing, he cursed the tree. He said, "You are a tree full of leaves and no fruit. You are green in leaves and bare in fruit. So you have all of this potential and no productivity."
Mm. Let's. You know what? We got to start this. We have to do a part 2 of this conversation because I'm looking at my clock and I'm like, I can't go much further, but I really want to because now you're getting into the look, the other side of me that wants to go through this, but we definitely will.
I'm good.
Um,
I'm good.
I I am so grateful for you for coming on here,
I
for
appreciate
just
you.
doing everything that you do. Thank you for saying yes to this interview. Thank you for being just such a support system for not only your community, for our family, myself, my husband. And I just know that you are going to
Wow.
do, and you have been doing great things. And this is just the start. This is just the
Amen.
beginning. So thank you, everyone. I hope that you guys took something from this. I hope you watch it again. I know that because I'm hosting this, I wasn't able to take on all the nuggets. So as soon as I get off, I am going to be replaying this myself because I caught myself a few times trying to take notes and interview at the same time. And so
Wow.
hopefully you
Well, that
are
means a
in
lot.
that same student
Yeah.
mentality. I hope this helped. I hope this blessed you guys. And I hope that this, again, gives you the confidence to step into your assignment, to reach for your goals, and to know that, guess what, you're not the only person going through the process. And yes, you can build and you can survive the building process. Thank you, guys.